You're listening to The KYLO Show, the podcast where we talk about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole healthy families are going to save the world. And it starts right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The KYLO Show. I feel like I need to come up with a new welcoming. Hello, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hola.
I could. Only I felt confident in my Spanish, I would
You
just
could
go for it.
Konnichiwa.
There's that too.
You could just kind of.
It's become so predictable, but all of our listeners know exactly what I'm going to say.
Well, hello's appropriate.
It's true.
Mhm.
I could say good morning. We always do it in the morning, so I could say good morning, but I guess I don't know when they're going to listen to
I
it.
wonder if people could see that in my eyes. It's
When
morning. Yes. Good morning.
We're having our second cup of coffee by now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, we are happy to be with you here on the KYLO Show. We always have a good time. You're letting me doing some of the heavier lifting the last couple episodes.
Well, it's the parenting stuff. I'm kind of a old parent. I turned 60 this year. I mean, gosh.
That is a wild thought.
Explain some of the snow on my face.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is brightening up.
Somebody thought that Ben and I were 40 because our kids are the age of, I think a lot of parents are 40. And he said, no, parents aren't 40 yet. I think they're in their 30s. And then he says, because she was a teen pregnancy.
And Lincoln loved that probably.
Lincoln thought it was, he asked me questions about it the other day in the car. He said, Mom,
are you a statistic?
Were you a teen pregnancy? I said, I was technically, but I was married to your father for over a year at that point. So it was just that we got married really young.
Yeah.
We were babies when
You were 19.
I was 18 when I got married and then had Delaney like a month after I turned 20.
Right. So you were 19 when you were pregnant.
Yeah.
And
so you might be an old parent. I feel like a middle parent.
Sure.
Middle-aged parent. There you go.
Yeah.
Ben likes to throw out there how close I am to 40. I don't appreciate that.
Well, he's closer.
He is.
He's leading the pack.
I do tell him that.
Mm-hmm.
He just had his birthday too. 38.
Yep.
He's rounding that corner.
He's as old as my marriage.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Well, speaking of marriage, we're going to kind of jump into kind of this topic of the culture that you create in your family, where it comes from, and a little bit of Ben and I's story of kind of discovering that truth and so much of how it became kind of a pillar to what we like to talk about and give away when it comes to marriages and family culture. So, tell a little story for you. We moved down to the Sacramento area almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
I know. It's like right now.
It's
when Mom came down. We came down in June.
Mm-hmm. I remember that, hanging out for Easter, thinking, oh my goodness, this is so much bigger than Reading. But we moved, we were on staff at Bethel and came down here to help JC start their church. And it was a season that we didn't expect. I'll say that. We left everything that was pretty normal and familiar to us and came to, you guys were on the road like crazy.
We were.
And we had this massive house for all of us, but really it was just the five of us living in it most of the time, and a huge backyard and a city we didn't know and no community. So it was an interesting season. It really rocked us in a bigger way than I think we ever expected, because we looked at each other. I was pretty sad. I was pretty lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I had probably one or two friends I really felt like outside of Ben.
You had a 2, 5, and a 9-year-old?
Yeah, something like that. And so we were just kind of in the throes of young parenting. And I started traveling with you a little bit more. And so Ben and I's roles completely swapped at that point. We came down here and he became a stay-at-home dad, going to school, and I worked full-time and was on the road.
I remember we had our office at the house.
We did.
Yes.
Yep. And Lincoln would yell, Mom,
Yep.
can I have peanut butter on a poon?
Yep.
I'm like, you need to ask the babysitter. I'm not here. Ask your father. Um, he was so little. But Ben and I had to figure out how close of friends were we in this marriage. That's what it felt like we were discovering.
You were both totally out of sorts.
We were very confused, both lonely and had different needs. And we always enjoyed each other. We've been friends for a really long time. We were friends at 14, 15. So we've done a lot of growing up together. But our culture at Bethel just kind of supported everything that we said we wanted. We didn't have to do much of
Did a lot for you.
It did. It was you call it the whirlpool effect. We just jumped in and it was cruising, and we're like, yeah, we agree with all of this.
Yep.
This is great.
Look at us.
Yeah, look at how great we are. We are so awesome. And then when we got out of the whirlpool, we're like, how come none of this stuff is still happening? That was the test of our marriage, our parenting, our culture, our beliefs. And we had to go to work pretty quickly on what we were going to establish as valuable and important. And that's when, we started identifying how different we were, that we didn't already know that. We had been learning that, but it became clearer. And instead of it being a place of frustration, it really became a place of understanding and value for one another. And we just grew. We decided to lean into our friendship. We leaned into our friendship. We worked on our marriage. We worked on probably telling the truth in a way that we'd never told the truth to each other before, with as much conviction of, I feel like a powerful person around you. That was probably the biggest difference. Is it wasn't I feel like a powerful person right now, but maybe later I won't. It was, we were living powerfully. And that kind of came, to a place where we were stronger than ever. We laughed more. We enjoyed each other. We had a great time. And then we were able to really focus on our family in a way that we hadn't before. We're creating our own whirlpool. That's what happened.
And so what you're suggesting is that family culture is the headwaters of that thing, really is the marriage.
Yeah. It was Ben and I created some momentum in what do we want to create, what do we want to protect. And I remember probably it was a big expense at the time, and we didn't really know why, but it felt like we were supposed to do it. We bought the season pass to Six Flags because we were closer than ever. And it was okay. But it just felt like something our family needed to establish, which really turned into how much fun we have together. And prioritizing, saying no to other things and yes to this over and over again, especially with my travel and school schedule and up all hours of the night with homework. It became this pillar, which later on is now in our culture creed, is we have fun together. And I feel like it still shows up over and over again. We're going to a park, flying a kite together. Most of us are having fun. But, we created these little moments from our whirlpool of we want to have fun together and we want our kids to enjoy each other. Which the other thing that happened is, we really worked to eliminate that sibling like rivalry type of thing where they're fighting constantly. Because every family I can think about, you see it.
Yeah.
It's just part of the dynamics. And everybody just says, okay, that's part of it. That's part of having kids, is they always fight. They always thrash each other. And it became a no for us.
Yeah. And it's amazing that folks don't realize that's part of your culture. What you host will grow.
So much of the little whirlpool that we were creating, our kids, we pushed them back to each other in that season like never before. I mean, I remember Delaney just fighting with her sister because she had her own space for the first time, and she didn't want her in there and didn't want to share a bathroom. And that's kind of how it started. I remember those little moments like that, and just having zero tolerance for disrespect in their relationship. That was one pillar. So that's part of our culture creed is, just loving each other well.
And the thing that you were addressing that I notice,
Mm-hmm.
being a live-in observer,
Sure.
is the intolerance for disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have no tolerance. That disconnection in relationships in this family will not be tolerated.
Yeah.
And that is an unusual standard.
Yeah. And it's funny how you say that. I yes, 100% agree. I don't know that that's how I've always viewed it. It just feels like that's who we are. It's
Yeah.
become such a automatic response as you can be disconnected for 12 hours, but we're not doing this long term. Like we're not.
As soon as it shows up, there will be a peer pressure in the family that begins to push on
Sure.
you fixing that, because the whole family's not okay until this gets settled.
Yeah.
And that is culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that comes from
Mm-hmm.
parental leadership. And it starts with you have no tolerance for disconnection in your marriage.
Mm-hmm. And that's 100% true. I think Ben and I work really hard to figure out, how to navigate what we need, which is always probably a bigger struggle for Ben than me. It's harder for Ben to have a need, probably.
He's getting better at it.
He is getting so much better at it.
He's so much better at it.
He is so much better at it. But his personality type, so that being the excuse, I wouldn't allow it to be the excuse, that your personality type, you're just more passive, you're more chill, you don't have as many needs. Well, you do have needs.
And I think what Ben has grown in the most is he's learning not only to have needs, but he's learning to be demanding, which is such an uncomfortable spot for him because he's like Mr. Servant, Mr. Accommodator.
Yeah.
So for him to say, all right, I'm going to slide this non-negotiable out there. Here I go. I need isn't like a I wish.
Yeah.
It's a I have need of supply, and there's really only one source, human source in this right now, and that would be you. Here you go. And then he kind of has to deal with the discomfort of, oh God, oh God, oh God, I hope this goes well.
We just had a situation not very long ago where he put his need on the table, and my immediate response is, I did something wrong. I'm not doing it right. I failed at something. So I have an internal that becomes external spin of his need. That has nothing to do about I don't want to meet the need or anything like that. It's I have to figure out what I'm going to do with this information because I don't like how I feel that I've not taken good care of, or usually because it's been on the table for longer than I saw, or okay, just a second, I'll be right back. That's kind of my habits there. And the other day I had my internal to external spin, and I was gone, and then I came back home and I said, okay, I'm sorry. I love you. I see your need. I hear it. I value it. I want to meet it. I just had to spin out for a second and give myself some space, and I come back to it. He goes, and I thank you for coming back to it. I'm like, yes, thank you for being gracious in my process. Because that's the other part of, we've learned to have grace for each other's process because they're both different. And that's helped us with the kids because they're all different. And so the more that we have value for each other and protecting our marriage and protecting our standard and what we're going to say yes to and no to has translated to the kids. The power of when we give a yes, they've seen it show up in our marriage because it's something that we've protected. They've seen us protect each other over and over and over again. They've seen us work through, we don't have knockout, drag out fights at all, but we do have tension. And the funny part is when the tension gets loud and uncomfortable, they'll tell us, do you guys need to work this out? Which almost never happens, but it's really, we usually all start laughing because there's that peer pressure that you're talking about. They are now also holding us accountable to something that we say is of importance to each
And
other.
it's kind of stunning to be around 3 children of different ages and genders, and there's really next to zero sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll irritate each other for a tinge. It's just a tinge, like, and it's usually the middle child. The middle child has like, and the other ones are like, okay, whatever. But it is amazing how little of that. So I guess the flip side of that is like, how are they going to learn to press into the discomfort
Mhm.
of somebody's problem with them,
Mhm.
or their problem with somebody else? So there's another muscle that you're going to have to like,
Totally.
because that kind of gets worked out in a lot of family dynamics where
You're
it's
thumping
like
each
living
other.
at Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, I learned to survive. I'm a
Mhm.
survivor. That's great. That's too bad that you are surviving your marriage. It's
Yeah.
too bad you're surviving your job. It's too bad you're surviving your life on Earth. That's the orphan situation. So you have to grow this direction. Whereas being, living in a protected culture where there's lots of connection and expectation that it's going to be like that,
Yeah.
here we go. You're going to have to be a leader in it, or you're going to get knocked off your pony.
Mhm. And we've been talking to Delaney about that. Just, she's got some new adventures where the opportunity to be leading in culture, in our culture, is showing up. Different relationships she brings into who we are, having the discussion of, okay, so, you're the gatekeeper of our culture. And what you give permission to come in, or what you settle for, if it's violating to our culture, it's going to affect all of us. And it's going to affect you because this is what you're almost settling for in levels of respect or exchange. So what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to protect? I think right now, looking at the kids across the board, there's some more than others. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a harder fight for you to keep your needs on the table, to, be willing to fight for something than others. And, I think the prayer really is that we stay close enough that that feedback, like we talked about before, is valued and received. So we're able to be like, hey, how are you doing? What do you need? Do you feel like that's working? What do you need differently? Are you open to a conversation? That would be my hope, is that we're able to press on that and, really leaning into not settling for something because it feels good.
Yeah, it's every situation creates a situation,
Sure, yeah.
and
Naturally.
but this this family's culture, your family culture is it it creates a place for the KYLO 5 to be practiced daily. The invitation is for somebody to come in and violate that, and our kids adjust instead of say, oh no, I will not be participating in anything outside of this. So I mean, like, oh, that's I'm just listening and thinking, what is our plan here? What is our plan to not have this whole thing thrown wonky because we didn't learn how to be demanding.
Well, I think I've seen the display with friendships. I can think of each child having their own encounter with a friend that would come in and was violating to our culture. And, I remember Lincoln's friends, he would tell me how he would kind of threaten him to not be his friend if he didn't give him what he wanted. And Lincoln's like, I don't like that. I don't really want to hang out with him. I'm like, okay. So that's how we remove that, is that it's not welcomed here. He has one of his closest friends is more aligned with our culture, and they are best friends. And Adeline, I would say, is probably the most assertive and directly going straight to the source, communicating exactly what she thinks, whether she's overly emotional about it or not. But she's brought that to every different friend group of, I deserve to be talked to more respectfully than this. I want to understand. I will clean up my mess. I've seen that displayed well with her. And I think Delaney is, her expression is similar to Lincoln in that it's probably not as direct as Adeline's, but her ability to say, I don't like how you treat me. And so I don't want a relationship like that. And, being a family that works in ministry and we have different people come through our lives, they look at different families and go, oh, we're here to love on you, not to expect a mature exchange in this relationship. There's a different expectation. So I think that they've grown to know, and we've talked about what expectations we can put on certain relationships based off of their experiences. And I think that the goal would be the exchange they've had in friendships would translate in more romantic relationships. We got to get through the la. That's just dangerous for everyone, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about DISC, and I think Addie is probably higher in the C category, but she got that S on there.
Yeah.
And Lainey and Lincoln both have a pretty high S, so they're their daddy's children.
I know. I don't know. There's none of me in there.
Yeah, and so they're gonna have to, I mean, Addie is more like you, but Lainey and Lincoln they're definitely gonna have to grow that assertive thing and say, I don't play that disrespect, disconnect, punishment, intimidation game. And it's going to be amazing to watch these young adults.
I imagine that it'll be like Ben taking on me when we were first married.
Yeah.
That will be that probably will be the muscle that it'll be developed in some senses, in that exchange, in that relationship, is the courage that comes out. Ben's learned, and he's really been chasing after the passivity, that he's fought off. And passivity just fueled my high D
Anxiety.
dragon. And I just was terrified of him not being engaged. And so in the early years of marriage, that was our whole house. Our whole house was just filled with anxiety because I was anxious that I was the only one doing it. I was the only one going to participate in it. So until he fought off that dragon and became assertive and found how to keep his needs on the table, that changed our marriage dynamic dramatically, which then changed how we've been, studying and growing and leading the kids in our culture. But it will be definitely something that they have to find and tackle. That Lincoln has, I see his passive aggressive come out, and I see his aggressive in Taekwondo when he gets hurt, then he rises. So I'm not sure how that'll look later on. But he does have a bunch of ladies in his life, so he'll be a professional communicator. But hopefully he will learn how to be not a passive man, but he'll be a assertive man by the time he gets to the woman of his dreams.
We'll work him over.
Yeah,
we'll work him over.
All good things.
Yeah. Well, the lesson of the episode here really is that if you are not paying attention to the value that you have for connection and respect in your marriage, then it's going to be tough to require more from your children than you yourself are requiring of yourself. and everything flows from your marriage. So your family cultures is really established in the work that you do to build a loving, intimate, mature connection with each other. Then you can lead your children in the same.
Yeah. And I like to say, culture happens one of two ways, on purpose or on accident. And Ben and I really changed the culture of our marriage on purpose. We came down here and we could have just kept going with the situation were handed, which we were lonely, isolated, different jobs, requirements, and we could have just settled for that, but we decided to lean into the anxiety a bit more. And from that, we created a culture in our marriage that has fueled so much of what I feel is the culture of our parenting. So, thinking about marriage, again, this being kind of the pay attention to your marriage. Please pay attention to your marriage. It is so crucial. We're always wanting to create opportunities for people to seek out, growth opportunities, fine tuning. I mean, you don't have to need a full engine replacement in your marriage. You could just need an oil change. You just need a little tune up. I think paying attention to your dashboard. I know Ben did a message on that of just there's little indicators that are trying to tell you need some help or you need to grow here if you're going to do something great. And so one really amazing opportunity that we have coming up is our KYLO marriage workshop in San Diego.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you live in the area or you are been dying for a vacation, come and see us in San Diego.
Beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. We'll get to be hanging out for a day and a half, talking about all sorts of fun stuff. You and me, and Mom, and Ben. It's like, I was going to say 3 Musketeers, but there's 4 of us.
Yeah.
4 Musketeers. I guess we'll just add one more.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun to have 2 different generations of marriages on display, and what Ben and I have learned from you guys, and what you guys gave to us. I think what you guys built in your season of marriage and what Ben and I are having to build. We are facing 2 different dragons, but I'm thankful for the growth and the investment. So again,
it's fun to watch the momentum.
It is fun. So KYLOmarriageworkshop.com, that's where you go for more information. So if that's something you're interested in, and I think you should be interested in it because it would be helpful.
Good stuff.
It's going to be great, super practical, helpful, powerful stuff. So check that out. It's going to happen in May, and we're going to jump into questions now. We'll see you soon. All right, well, we're going to jump into our questions. And if you haven't given us a question and you want to check out thekyloshow.com, and you get to record your own questions. So we get to hear your voice. It's almost like we're meeting you.
Well, it's fun.
It is fun. But today's first question comes to us from Sarah.
Hi, Danny. Hi, Brittney. I wanted to ask you what to do in a situation where someone is telling me about an experience they had, a negative one, and I'm sitting there thinking that at least part of what they're experiencing is a natural consequence of a choice they made. And I don't know what to do with that. I'm not very good at coming up with questions on the spot. Questions like, well, have you thought about this? Type of questions that I've heard you both mention in various scenarios. And I'm not even sure if I should be saying anything. And part 2 of my question is, I admit that I fear that if I give them honest feedback, that I'm going to be shut out of the relationship. And so I'd appreciate some wisdom on navigating how to be powerful in that scenario where I'm feeling risk.
Reasonable questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that, as she's asking that question, I'm thinking about the 5 E's in Unpunishable.
Yeah.
That book or that e-course, either one. Always leading with empathy. Like somebody's telling you this story, like I left my keys in my car running in front of the 7-Eleven and I couldn't get my ATM card to work, and so I was talking to the cashier I couldn't believe, and then somebody stole my car. And you're like, yeah, duh, dummy, but that you can't.
Say that.
No,
Yeah.
it's not gonna
Mm-mm.
go well. So you're like, oh no, somebody stole your car. Oh, dude. Oh, what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm watching you live your life
Mm-hmm.
in that conversation. I'm not trying to fix your life. I'm not trying to steer your life. I'm watching you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to feel that I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as much as I can, I want to communicate to you that I heard what you're experiencing. No judgment. Like I'm not judging what I think about what you did, or seriously, you left your car running in front of a 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, your keys are
Yeah.
in there. So I think there's step one. Step two is we get through the initial conversation piece, me watching you communicate, and then I want to empower you, and in there I'm going to ask you, do you want to know what I think? Do you want some feedback on this? Are you open to any input about this? I'm going to get to the educate part,
Mm-hmm.
but it's way down here.
Mm-hmm.
It's through protecting the connection with empathy.
Yeah.
It's really like, what are you going to do? I need to make sure that you know that I know that your job is your life. Your
Mhm.
job is not my life.
Mhm.
So be sure to establish those two things before you get going into exploring and educating.
Also, if someone's telling you an exchange or an experience they had of you, and it was a boundary that was set, that sometimes is hard because you're like, yeah, I put that there.
Because you're scary.
Yes. So being able to navigate that as well, if you're just observing, it's the same kind of rotation of questions and empathy. I'm really sorry that was your experience. That I'm not trying to be judgmental based off of whatever they're coming to you with. I was setting a boundary because I am scared about this.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. This was a scary situation, and I don't want you to feel like I don't love you, but I did put that boundary in place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what to do at this moment until I feel safe to take that boundary down. So if that's the exchange of someone telling you about the experience they're having with you, but it's natural causes because you placed that boundary there, that's going to
Mhm.
be a different exchange a little bit than just observing, being with you in the moment of course, someone stole your car, it's
Mhm.
different exchange.
Yeah.
And, leadership is so much of it is empathy and being able to plug into that and asking the questions, that takes practice.
Mhm.
It's not, it's easier for some and harder for others. So I write down really good questions that I know I forget. I always laugh every time I teach parenting, the whole thing, start to finish. I always walk away going, oh, yeah, I forgot about that tool. I need to do that one again. Or, oh, that's right.
Mhm.
So the more exposure you have to changing the way that you want to talk and asking different questions, I think that's part of the muscle of developing that default to asking questions instead of talking at somebody.
Mhm.
So more and more, just write down the questions as you hear them on the show. If that, you're going to use that somewhere, get out your notes on your phone and write it down and
Mhm.
give some context to help you. Especially if you're going to have coffee with this person, then it's likely that this is going to come up. Be ready for some great questions.
Yeah. If you're married or you have children or you have any friends at all, you've got to learn empathy. You've got to learn how to show somebody that you're listening to them. and that you get it, that you see them, and that there's a connection there. And if you don't know how to do that, that's a great place to practice, because giving your advice is not the place to practice. Showing deep levels of empathy, that's the win.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's a good question, Sarah. I appreciate all your leaning in to grow.
Yeah,
So keep working on those questions.
absolutely.
All right, our next question comes to us from Amy.
Hello, Danny and Brittany. My name is Amy. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 7 adult children between the two of us. Grandchild number 12 on the way. The first 10 years of our marriage was pretty horrible. We were very dysfunctional. God saved our marriage. We have a wonderful marriage now. And from that moment till now, we've been trying to clean up the damage with our children. It's not going too well. We came across the KYLO principles about a year and a half ago now. We've been working really hard trying to grow and change. And we're on the Life Academy website all the time, doing the courses, trying to apply what we're learning. But our problem is that no matter how much we grow and change, no matter how many healthy boundaries we set, no matter how much requirement of respectful communication we lay down, our children continue to tell us that having those boundaries and expecting respectful communication means that we're narcissistic. They love to call us a narcissist. It's just a regular word for our kids towards us. Can you give us any insight on how to handle that? We truly do value them. We are trying to show them respect and speak their love language. But when they start name calling, it gets really tough and we pull back. So any input would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, bummer.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that the social media generation, I'll just call it, because it's at this point, I'm not sure what to call it.
What X, Y, Z,
Yeah,
W.
which one we're on. But I think what social media has trained young people, and really, it's not just young people, it's everyone who absorbs this much input without any standard or requirement. It's just raining
Mm-hmm.
opinions, is that there's no substance to an accusation. There's no truth required. There's no evidence required. You can just make any accusation you want, shoot your opinion out there, and it's supposed to be really impactful. And that, so when you do that in a conversation, right, just say, you're selfish, you're a narcissist, you're stupid, nobody should listen to you. Like, okay, this is super immature, A. B, this is highly ineffective. And if we're going to have a conversation, it's going to require that we both listen. So I think the fast track to getting your way these days is just go personal attack. Just go personal attack, and the whole conversation stops.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not listening. There's no dialogue happening. There's just I want my way, and the way I do it is I accuse you of something. And it's super damaging, and it's a really bad idea. And if I'm Amy, I just say, well, maybe we can have a conversation when you can tell me about you. Because you telling me about me isn't going to get us anywhere, because I'm not going to agree with you and you're not going to relent. So this conversation ends with personal attack. If you want to tell me about you, I would love to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to understand what you need from me. And I would love to show you me and let you know what I need from you. And we can get some good truthing going on. But personal attacks, I don't play. I'm not playing personal attack.
Yeah. Do you think Amy should give an example of what talking about yourself looks like?
Not until there's an agreement to do that, because that's a vulnerable thing that to enter into, especially with somebody who is more interested in winning
Yeah.
than they are connecting.
Mm-hmm.
They're more interested in being right than they are in connecting. So as long as those things are, I'm going to teach you, Mom. I'm going to teach you, Dad. I'm going to be the expert of all perception and perspectives. There's only one. It's everybody that agrees with me. Like, okay, this is over. This conversation stopped as soon as you demanded to be right and to win.
Yeah, it feels so loud these days that my emotions are truth to how I'm feeling and what I believe is factual, rather than I had a conversation with just Delaney, and I'm talking at her, and I realize I'm talking at her rather than talking about me.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I said, "Sorry, I think I'm just scared and I need to feel safe. And so the suggestions I'm hearing aren't making me feel safe." But I'm trying to get reason and logic, and I'm emotional, and I mean, it wasn't a heated conversation. I realized, like, oh, I'm just talking at you, which I'm discrediting what it is that you're trying to accomplish, but I'm not giving you very good information to even make adjustments with. So let me give you some good information, which is I'm scared, rather than you just feeling like I'm attacking something. So
yeah, and there may be a spot where I can say to my adult child, say, are you feeling, did I do something that hurt you? Am I doing something that's scaring you? But it's still back to show me you.
Yeah.
Because if you go personal attack on me, I'll end this conversation.
Oh, Amy, that's hard. We will be praying for those windows.
Yeah. And the KYLO 5, just stay in there with that. You're going to win if you just, you're going to get to the end of all these things and you're going to say, I've done what I could do.
Yeah.
And that's at this point, that's what it looks like to keep your love on.
To be successful. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Amy, for that. And we'll be praying for breakthrough. Okay, well, we're back with our testimony. Today's testimony comes to us from Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. When I was incarcerated, I was able to do Keeping Your Love On. What I learned the most is that when I have a conflict with someone, I have to know that I can't control the other person's feelings or response. It is my job to be able to listen so I can find out what the other person needs from me. In my experience in a conflict, since I have been doing KYLO, I have been able to recognize the areas that I need to work on myself. And it's also important to have healthy boundaries and set limits. But with doing that, you also have to respect the other person's boundaries as well. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for Keeping Your Love On.
Cool.
Incarcerated, doing Keeping Your Love On.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that would be a good system for our states to pick up. Here, read this.
Here we go. Yeah. Well, it'd be a great tool to fix problems that people have, but a lot of people don't have
them.
Yeah. They don't have a problem. Yeah, this reminds me of Ron and Don Atkins at Restoration Ministries. They are doing exactly that, and met some of the ladies that are coming out of prisons and going to their homes and just getting their lives transformed. And it's so much more than I read a book or I got my heart reworked by a loving Father, and He has put me on the path of life. I was on the path of self-preservation, and now I'm on the path of family. And these ladies are just so much fun to meet, talk to, listen to their stories, and their stories are just shocking.
They're just gonna make you sob the whole
You're
way
just
through.
like, what?
Yeah.
And then they say, but then God. Like, there you go. So fun.
Yeah, I mean, to be incarcerated for I don't know how long, to read Keep Your Love On or Loving Your Kids. I know we've heard both stories, and then to talk about changing the outcome of your family,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's happened here. I mean, you and I, we got to go to prison in Huntsville, Texas. That was a crazy experience.
Yep. That's where we met Ron.
That's where we met Ron. He
Mhm.
was in.
He loves to tell people, yeah, Danny and I met in prison.
Well, he walked up to Ben when he met Ben
Yeah.
at our house, and
Yeah.
he goes, "I met your wife in prison."
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that encounter, we went to their school of ministry, satellite school they had there, and I remember they had read Culture of Honor. I'm pretty sure at that point, and
They had a whole BSSM.
they did. They were reading. They were getting through
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
But that's the one I remember them talking about because we met with their leaders of their school, and then you taught, and I think I gave a prophetic word
Mm-hmm.
in there. But one of the most impactful moments for me, and that was when all of the prisoners, they asked if they could pray for us,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
They can touch you, but they can't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they lined either side of us, and you wrapped your arms around me, and they laid their hands on your arms that
Mhm.
were wrapped around me so they could pray for both of us.
Mhm.
And we walked through their fire tunnel together, which probably was the best fire tunnel I've ever been through. Honestly, it was so powerful. I just wept the whole way through. And I
Mhm.
mean, if anything, it was just the gratitude that I'm a free person loving Jesus, and you are incarcerated loving Jesus with greater passion.
Yeah, and a bunch of them are freer than a bunch of people
Oh,
outside
so
the prison, which is
100%.
kind of crazy
Yeah.
that these guys are so full of
Hope.
spirit of love and
Yes.
power and
Oh,
self-control.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
we went back again another time, you, me, and Mom, and taught together, the three of us. And I remember some of the men coming up and saying that they'd never seen a healthy family
Mhm.
before. And that all of us up there together was just an experience that was healing for them.
Hmm.
To see us loving each other and partnering and promoting. So it's I mean, talk about changing your legacy starts with, really leaning into finding the Lord and, healthy relationships and keep growing. I mean, I just what Don and Ron and Don have done is they're just giving that opportunity to people that have been overlooked, I think.
Yeah, they're
And it's
just
amazing.
super inspirational humans, and
Yeah.
it's an honor to know them
To run with them.
because they are really helping us
Yep.
in whole healthy families are going to save the world.
That's it. All of the families
Yeah.
all over the world. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining us here at the KYLO Show, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Never miss an episode of The KYLO Show by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. Don't forget to submit your questions and testimonies to thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding, co-produced by Ashley Beck and Anna Hill, sound engineered and edited by Taylor Silk, and show promoter Christian Zamora. Don't forget, whole healthy families gonna save the world.